So as you know, if you've been following our channel, we have just recently purchased a house that is a flip renovation for us, and it's a big project. And we've gotten a number of comments about that I wanted to talk about. The first one here from Reborn says, you may need to change the name of your channel. It doesn't really represent it anymore. Live simple, live free. He's saying it doesn't really represent live simple, live free anymore. I think that comes from not completely understanding what live simple, live free means. So we want to discuss that. And another one here from Lori says, another obligation is not living free. So let's talk about those things. Hey everybody, I'm Bill.
And I'm Elizabeth. Live simple,
live free. So what is live simple, live free, and should we change our name? Have we outgrown our name? The basic philosophy of live simple, live free, I think some people misunderstand it because they think that means minimalist living.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think you kind of picture somebody in a little cabin, and they've got 2 cups and 2 saucers and 2 plates, and they have a little garden and very, very few possessions, and everything's just don't need hardly any money at all. And what I find interesting about that actually is that if you really were living in a real small little cabin somewhere and you had a garden, you certainly would still be having to work a lot and be very busy just to keep everything going and everything. It's just the whole kind of almost romanticized idea that I think people kind of have. I'm not sure how real that often even is.
Right. So what do we mean when we say live simple? Well, basically it means live debt-free. It means live in such a way that you're not buying things that you don't need, especially if you're using credit to do it.
Right.
And so if you are debt-free, then you are free. You're free to do other things with your money. You're free from the stress of having to worry about where the money for the payments is coming from.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. So we are by no means minimalist.
No, never have been. Even when we lived in a tiny house, I still wanted a regular kitchen so I could do regular cooking and yeah.
Right. So the whole purpose behind what we're saying here, live simple, live free, is to live debt-free so that you are free to do other things. Now what happens when you're debt-free? This house is paid for.
Yeah.
Our cars are paid for. So what does that mean? And we worked very hard to get to that point.
Yes.
So what does that mean?
Diligently.
It means we have no mortgage payment. It means we have no car payments. It means we have no credit card payments. How much is all of that?
Our insurance is even less.
Yeah. I don't know what the average amount of debt payment is per household in America, but I'm sure it's several $1,000s. Depending on where you live, your mortgage might be anywhere from $700 or $800 up to $3,000 or more.
Oh, sure.
And then 1 or 2 car payments. You could easily be talking about $3,000 or $4,000 a month in debt payments just to maintain.
Well, yeah, just for your house and your cars.
And we don't have any of that. So what does that mean? That means we have all of that money is now discretionary income for us, which we can save. And so that's what we're talking about when we say live simple, live free. So our name doesn't really represent our channel anymore. It does, because we're still maintaining that same philosophy.
Well, and also along with that, we could have gotten a much bigger house. We could have gotten much nicer than the one we live in. This is a little 900 square foot house, which we're now putting that little addition on the side there.
Which brings it up to about 1,000 square feet.
Yeah. And so we could have nicer, newer cars. So we would, we could really upgrade our lifestyle, have more room for more stuff.
Right.
This still isn't a real big house. But that would have required us to once again be having to use debt to make that possible. And the more I just accumulate, the more there's just stuff. I don't want to do that. So we're not accumulating stuff. I've got things in here, this house, that I love and I like and I use. But I guess the whole idea is that it's not minimalist, but we're not going to upgrade our lifestyle and get a lot more stuff for one thing, I don't want more stuff, and the other is that then would tend to put us back into the bondage in our life of having to be paying so much to maintain that. So I guess in that respect, that's another aspect of live simple, live free, is that everybody's got different things that they would be happy with, and I know that. And I have found that can be very happy with my little house that I was able to pay off, with my dogwood tree in the front and my little garden. And I've still got plenty of stuff in the house, But we did make a decision when we were able to upgrade, get bigger, get a better vehicles and fancier new stuff. But we decided that's not worth the debt to us.
Right.
Besides, the more room I have for stuff, the more am I going to accumulate, and I don't want to accumulate. Anyway, I wanted to kind of touch
So
on that
if you've
too.
been following our channel for a while, or if you're new to us but you've gone back and seen some videos from the past, you see that in '08, in the crash of '08, we lost 4 houses that we had. They were all mortgaged to the hilt, our own home, and 3 rental properties.
Yeah, we had a whole big business.
And we lost all of it when my construction business crashed in '08. We ended up living in that tiny little 250 square foot travel trailer and just barely survived financially. Well, our income has since recovered. We're doing quite well with YouTube and with Thrive Life, but we are by no means rich. We're just back up to middle class. We could have bought a bigger house, but instead we stayed in this small one and we concentrated everything that we could like a laser on paying it off.
Which we did in 16 months.
Yeah, and part of the reason we could do that is because we drive old cars. We could afford now to go out and get much nicer cars and, with payments on them. But we have 3 vehicles. Our car is an '03, so it's 19 years old. The van that I just bought is an '07, and the motorcycle that I just bought is an '07. So they're 15 years old. So we sacrificed by driving older vehicles and being in a smaller house so that we could get everything debt free, and so that we now have that discretionary income that we can save for investments.
Well, and also just the stuff that we've been able to do around this house, which makes it, that little bit more room in the mudroom that we've just built is going to help so much. The things that Bill's been working on around here, we've been able to do it on a cash basis, which is, I love having something that we can handle fixing up, but we don't have to go into debt to do it.
Right. And one of the main reasons that I can do that is because I can do all the work myself.
Yeah, if I had to hire somebody to do the work,
it would cost us more than twice what I'm paying for the materials.
Yeah.
Because labor is expensive.
Right, and
So
we realize that.
We're saving tens of thousands on just even on this little addition by doing all the work myself. So, and then Lori said another obligation is not living free. Well, it's a job. It's income.
Yeah, it's work.
Most people have jobs, right? Most people have work.
Yeah.
Most people leave the house to go and earn income. Well, that's all we're doing. So that'd be like saying taking a job is not living free.
Yeah, it's work. If you're back to that little cabin with the garden outside, which is kind of what I have here actually, you still have to work. You still have to have money coming in to pay for things and to take care of things. And sometimes even a simpler life where like I'm trying to grow a lot of my own food, it takes effort and work. And we're certainly not in a position where we are just retiring rich, because that's not true.
Right.
We work, and this is work for the summer.
Now, another question that quite a few people have asked is whether this house, this renovation flip house that we're doing, whether we paid cash for it, whether it's a cash deal.
We're not that rich.
No, we're not that rich. No, it is not a cash deal. We got a loan for it. But I thought you were supposed to be debt free. It's a business loan, a short-term business loan with a known exit strategy, and it's an income-producing loan. The debt that we absolutely abhor is consumer debt that is an expense. Mortgages, car payments, credit cards, all of those kinds of things, they'll just drive you into the ground financially. But to get a business loan to invest in a business deal that's going to earn you money and pay itself off within just a few months. That's a whole different category of debt. And we're still only doing it because we have a very specific exit strategy. We expect to have this renovation finished within 3 months, certainly by 4 months, and it'll be on the market. We'll sell it, we'll get rid of it.
Right, and besides, I'm sorry, hon.
I'm done.
You have to look at something like this and crunch numbers very, very carefully.
Yeah.
And with what we were able to do with this, it was just really an incredible blessing. What we were able to do with this place, worst possible scenario was is not ever going to leave us with debt that we have to pay over the long haul. It's not, nothing here in all of this involves our home or our son's home. It's completely separate, and the absolute worst that could happen would be that Bill and I, things would crash so bad that Bill and I might not get our down payment money back.
Yeah.
But it's not going to affect our life at all.
Now, I said that because we don't have these other debt obligations, we're able to save that money. And so we saved a chunk of money to use as a down payment for the loan. And I don't want to call it a mortgage because it's not a mortgage. It's a short-term business loan.
It's a commercial
loan.
It's
a rehab loan, a commercial rehab loan.
Yeah.
We were able to save that amount of money for the down payment for that loan. Now, you should never invest money that you cannot afford to lose.
That's right.
So if we had used a HELOC, a home line of, what is it, home
equity line of credit,
yeah.
HELOC,
on this house,
which is paid for,
to buy the one we're renovating, and then everything went belly up, we could lose this house.
Right. Yeah, we don't want to use the money that is equity in this home and potentially lose it by doing a business.
So
like
this is actually, like I keep saying, it's a commercial loan. It's not tied to any of our other assets. The only thing it's tied to is that house itself. So they could come and take that house if everything doesn't work out. But we won't lose our home. We won't lose our cars. We won't lose anything else.
Right. And there's so much equity already in that house that I don't have any. I'm the one that gets all nervous about financial stuff, and I'm very confident that this was a wise financial decision.
Now, I'm not going to talk specific numbers. I know a lot of you are interested, but I'm not going to talk that. But
it's not a good idea.
But I will say that we got a fabulous deal on the purchase of the house, and that's when you make your money. Not when you sell it. You make it when you buy it.
Yes.
And we got a fabulous deal on the purchase of it. We put our money down, and then we got the commercial loan for the rest of the purchase, plus
an amount of money to be able to do the renovation.
For the renovation, yes. And there's so much profit left in it that I am confident. A lot of people have said, you better hurry up and do this because we're facing a recession and everything's going to crash. Yes, we're aware of that, and we're a little concerned about that. But there's enough profit in this that I think even if it does crash, we'll still be able to sell the house for enough at least to cover the loan.
Oh, it would be an incredible deal for somebody.
Yeah.
Just to cover the loan.
We may lose the money that we put into it as the down payment, but that's okay. It's money that we have determined that we can lose, or we wouldn't have invested.
At that point, it's water under the bridge as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're really not concerned about that exit strategy because there's enough profit that we could lower the price considerably and still get out of the deal, cover the mortgage, cover the commercial loan, and be free from it.
And you know what else feels good? We're going to be in a position to be able to sell that house for, I think, a very nice, fair price for whoever buys it. We're not jacking anything up. It's going to be a great deal for whoever buys it.
Right.
Once it's all done, it's going to be, yeah.
Now, Elizabeth and I have an idea for an investment that we've been talking about for quite a while. We don't have enough money to invest in it because we want to do it debt-free. We had a certain amount of money that we could have invested in it, and then we'd have a debt on it.
We don't want to do that.
But here's what we did. Have you ever heard of a man named Robert Kiyosaki? He wrote a book 20 years ago called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That was his first book, and now he's written dozens of books, and he does a lot of training. He's a very rich man from Hawaii, and his books don't teach how to invest in a specific thing to get rich. And his books teach how rich people think compared to how middle class or poor people think. And so when he was growing up, he had two dads. One dad was a very hard working.
He's a professor, I think, or teacher.
Yeah, yeah, I think he was a college professor.
Yeah.
And the other dad was a very rich man. And so he was able to see the different mentality of the two.
His regular real dad was the professor, and the other was his mentor.
Yeah. And something that I read in his first book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, that has stuck with me, and that's exactly what we're doing here. When he was very young, I don't know, maybe 18 or 20, he was just getting started in all of this that he was learning from his rich dad. He wanted to buy a car. He had a certain amount of money. He wanted to go out and buy a car. But taking the advice of his rich dad, he used that money as a down payment to go out and buy a laundromat. That laundromat had enough cash flow that it paid its own mortgage, and it had enough money left over for him to go out and buy the car that he wanted, and the leftover money from the laundromat paid the loan on the car. So instead of taking his money and buying the car, which is not an asset, it depreciates, he went and used that money to put it down on a laundromat, which is a cash producing asset, used that money to buy the car. So once the car was paid for, he still had the laundromat, and it was still bringing him in cash.
Yeah.
See, that's the difference between how a rich man thinks and how a middle class or poor person thinks. A poor person or a middle class person thinks, oh, I got this money, I'm going to go buy this car I want. Instead, he says, use that money to invest, and then use that money to buy your toys, to buy what you want. So that's what we've done. We had this certain amount of money that we could have used to buy this other investment that we want, that would have a long-term mortgage on it or a long-term debt on it. But instead, we used that money as a down payment on this short-term commercial loan to flip this house and pull enough profit out of that to hopefully go out and buy the investment that we're looking at with cash or close to it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have said, talking to them about me, and they say, you're too old to do this. I absolutely agree. I didn't want to do this anymore. And a lot of you say, oh, Bill, it's obvious how much you enjoy your work. I hate to burst your bubble, but at 65, I really don't. I did 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Now it's just work, and I don't look forward to it. I didn't ever want to do it again.
He's good at construction, but it's just not something that it feels all that easy anymore.
But I'm very excited to be able to go into this project with my son over the summer. I would never have done it by myself.
Oh, it's way too much.
I would be overwhelmed by it at this point.
And Barry is such an incredibly hard worker. He makes a huge difference.
But we're very excited to be able, for me, to go into this as a short-term thing, working over the summer, basically just working a summer job to be able to flip the house and pull enough profit out to be able to go and buy what we want to buy. And now you're all thinking, what is it they want to buy? We will reveal that when it happens, which will probably be next winter sometime.
Yeah. Well, we've talked a lot about how that if you can get completely out of debt and your income is still hanging in there, what do you do with that? With that extra income. And honestly, it's been a joy to be able to give more. That has been a great joy.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want to just have have money just sort of accumulating. I want to do something with it that's going to make a good, wise stewardship of the money. And so we're finally at a point in our life where we're shifting from the being able to stay out of debt part to the beginning to look at some investing kind of things. What do we do to make the best use of the money that we do have in the long run? And so that's what we're really trying to look at right now.
Now, I taught a course about a year and a half ago, I think, and I'll put a link to it on the end screen and down in the description below. The course was how to get out of debt, including your mortgage, in 7 years or less.
And it really does work.
People that are following the plan are really, truly getting out of debt. And then people would come to me and say, okay, so how do I invest this? Well, that course and everything we're saying is not about teaching you how to invest. It's teaching you how to get out of debt so that you do have money that you can invest. There are a lot of investment brokers and financial planners who can tell you that. That's not my area of expertise. But what I'm saying is, by following that plan ourselves, we got out of debt, which now gives us the money that we used to waste on our mortgage and our interest payments on this house. We can now use that money to start investing. That's the whole thing of live simple, live free. And like I said, if you want to do that, check out the course that I taught. It's 4 videos, I think. It really makes a difference for those who are following it.
Yeah.
So we're just, basically, what's the word I'm looking for? When you do what you say you're going to do.
Following our own advice. I don't know.
The proof is in the pudding. I don't know. I mean, we're basically following our own advice and doing what we're teaching you to do, and you're seeing the results of it, that we're able to actually go over and get a loan on this house to flip, and we're excited about it.
Yeah, I think it's just it's a wonderful family project. I think it's going to go well. It's going to leave somebody really blessed with a beautiful home. I tell you, one thing that's really nice is, like, if any of you guys have followed with Empty Hammock, with our son's channel, he took this unbelievably huge mess of an old house. I can't even describe what an incredible disaster it was. It was a blight on the whole community. And he worked very, very hard and turned that back into its glory days. It was an old house, and he restored it, and it is gorgeous. It helped the entire community, and somebody now has a beautiful home. And this house that we're doing now, it's in much better shape than the house was that he did before. But it was getting kind of sad. It's like wonderful bones, but it just needed some TLC badly. Things needed to be fixed and repaired. And this house was coming to the point where very much more time would go by and it would have been destroyed because of all the leaking and the damage. It was going to start really ruining the house. And so it feels very good to get in there and work really hard and restore this to a beautiful home for somebody. And it blesses our families with some work and some income, and investment for us. But it's also just wonderful to feel like that we're going to be able to have this place now go back to its even better than its original glory, I hope, and make a really nice home for somebody.
And quite a few of you have said that you're sad to see that I'm not continuing to work on the addition for this house, that you want to see that. Well, hopefully now you understand what we're doing, why we're doing this flip house, that it's only going to be for a short time. And then I'll get back on the addition. But actually, I'm continuing to work a little bit on the addition as well, as you will see.
Yeah.
But once I'm done this flip house with Barry and I'm done the addition, I'm done with construction. I want to get in my RV and just ride into the sunset.
Yeah, with the whole idea of living simple, living free, I cannot tell you how, especially with all the stuff that happened around the crash of 2008 and how rough that was for so long, because we had a very prosperous business. And, there are a few things in the world more stressful, to me anyway, than to owe something that you cannot figure out a way to pay for it. We lost our work, we lost our income from the rental properties, everything, and it's just to feel like, you're making penalty payments on stuff and you're trying to scramble together. It is so stressful to me. And now, one of the things that's so freeing, especially with my, fussy, want to have ducks in a row mentality that I have about finances, is to know that I've got the money ahead for whatever I need to do. I can pay early and save a little bit on it, or I can just buy something cash. And so it just isn't a burden. As long as we don't let ourselves start spending too much or let ourselves fall back into debt, I feel at peace that we can handle what we need to take care of. We're not going to leave anybody hanging. And so, to be able to set some money aside freely and still pay for everything else, to do something like make an investment, it's amazing to me. So you can ask Bill, through all the years of us raising kids and all this kind of stuff, getting me to spend money on something I needed was like pulling teeth. And I'm not saying that to try to brag. It was, I was so
I had to take her down to Walmart and practically beat her over the head to get her to buy a package of socks to replace her old Holy socks. That's how much she hated spending money.
I never grew up with a whole lot of money. When I was in college, I didn't have very much. And I was just, so for me to feel like that when I just had to replace some shorts because my shorts were getting so worn out that they were like not fixable anymore. And just to say, oh, I'm just going to get some shorts. I know that may seem silly to some people, but just to feel like it's okay. I'm not going to rob from anything else for me to go get something that I need, something as simple as just a little bit of clothing I need. There is a tremendous freedom that's come into our life with just not becoming encumbered by possessions or debt, so that what we do need, we can do, but if we don't need it, we don't. We don't do it, we don't buy it. So I feel the freedom to get the things that really mean a lot to me or that I really need. There is a lot of live simple, live free in that.
Yeah, and we've been working diligently since '08, since everything crashed, to get to this point, where we are recovered financially and debt free. Because last time we had all these houses and things, and it was all, like I said, mortgaged to the hilt.
We looked so much richer. We really did have a beautiful home. We built it. We owned these other homes, and they had happy people renting them. We looked like we were pretty prosperous. But boy, that house of cards can fall in a hurry.
Yeah, it did. So
Now,
now we've learned our lesson, and so now we are doing everything that we can to remain debt free in our own personal stuff. And the debt that we've taken on for this house is a short-term business loan with a defined exit strategy.
Yeah.
And that's our philosophy.
I can sit here and just look out my window here in the living room and see see my dogwood tree that I talk about so much. Living close to the family. We don't need big fancy things at all to have so much joy in life. And I feel like now, I think I've probably said this before, but when I see a beautiful Victorian home with all the gingerbread and the big wraparound porches and everything, I can look at it and appreciate it and be so thankful that I'm not paying the taxes on it or cleaning it or painting it. I love feeling like life is in the things that we have are of a size that we can handle them, time-wise and financially, and just enjoy the simpler, smaller things. And that is part of that whole philosophy of living simple and living free.
So I hope all of that makes sense to you, our philosophy, our financial philosophy here. I hope it also makes it a little bit more sense of what we're doing with this flipper house that we're renovating, and why we're doing it, and why we have taken on this obligation. And then I'm very much looking forward to being finished with it so I can go back to just making videos to earn my income. Sounds like such a breeze compared to the work that I'm doing over there.
I don't really see us coming to the point where life isn't at least somewhat busy.
One other thing I want to talk about just very briefly. This channel is not supposed to be about construction. And I'm kind of concerned that many of you people who have just joined think that this is a construction channel. Our channel is supposed to be about prepping, about gardening, about self-sufficiency,
and just sharing our lives.
And that's what has happened, is as we're just sharing our lives, well, this flip house and our renovation, our addition, that's what is in our life right now, so that's what we're sharing. Yeah. When it's over, we won't be doing any more of that. Hopefully we'll be getting back to more RVing, more gardening, more prepping.
Well, we'll certainly still try to give you guys neat stuff to watch.
Yeah, we'll still be talking about debt freedom. That's one of our main points, that sort of thing. So anyway, I think we've been blathering on enough here. We need to...
Done blathering.
So, thanks for watching.
Yeah, you guys. Seriously, live simple.
Live free.
Yep.
You be blessed.
And we love you, and we just keep letting you see what's happening. I tell you, when that house is done, I think it's going to be beautiful.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.